Oh, good evening, or good afternoon for everyone in the US as well. Welcome to Be More Super Live with myself and Larry. Oh, Larry, you're going backwards and forwards. Are we getting the whole shot in? We're getting all your
Yeah.
goodies on the shelf.
Yeah.
It's, of course, Wednesday, the 22nd of February. It's another week of a live show. So, everyone watching and listening, welcome to the show. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share and tell your friends that we're live, because we want to try and get as many people involved as possible in the live stream. So if you've got any questions, any comments, please comment below. It does come through to us and we can get that on the screen, hence that little blank bit below us there on that screen. But Larry, how have you been this week, sir?
I've been all right. Just work, come home, play video games. Work, come home, play video games.
Oh, mate,
Nothing much.
you make it sound so sad. You know, work, video games. But no.
That's
I
why,
wish
because
I
I don't
could.
have any money to go anywhere else.
But the thing is, though, I mean, I've always said we could always be worse off.
Yeah.
As long as we've got the family, you've got a beautiful family, mate, and you play games, even though you're rubbish at a lot of them, like me. You're
True.
better at PUBG than me, but then that's obviously practice of you coming home,
Oh, and I'm
playing
still
games.
awful at that. I was playing yesterday, and the two guys I was playing with, every time I did something, they're like, "Larry, come on!"
But you know what? It's one of those things. We keep trying. I think for me, it's definitely an age thing, because obviously I remember the old computer games, the old the thing that you went up and down and you played. Is it Pong?
Pong.
Pong
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
played. Yeah, I can remember that and the Ataris and everything like that.
I mean,
Uh,
you're only a few years older than me, but like I remember my dad had computers like back in the early '90s, and he had Doom when it first came out. And I remember
mm,
him coming home like, "Hey, son, let's check out this game." And I was just so like, "Oh my god, what is this?" And me and my dad would like play this together.
yeah. I mean, Doom now, obviously, they re-released it and made it look all really good.
Oh, yeah.
Um, some someone's I love this. I've got to put this on the screen. Uh, Richard Green. I love these official names. We need to start a Livonia group on DayZ. Oh, we're talking about DayZ today. Um, well, if you want us to talk about DayZ, you're more than welcome to. Let's give the server a shout out. APOC. This will get us a lot of kudos on the actual server. So, if anyone, before we start talking about the great world of entertainment, if anyone's played DayZ, it's like a survival game. Sometimes it can feel like Minecraft for adults. I love it. I know who Richard Green is. I love it. It's Hacken, by the way. I know. And is that really Richard in that picture? It's very formal, isn't it, Larry?
It really is. I kind of picture him the way he sounds to look just like that too. Like,
Hmm.
"Hello, everybody, it's me, Heckin."
From SpongeBob. That was a very good.
No, Squidward.
Exactly.
Meh.
But yeah, I mean, there is it's a survival game, and sometimes it can feel like it's Minecraft for adults. But there's a lot of fun in there. There's a lot of angst and good times. And the server that we play on is APOC. That's AAPOC. And it's something of Chinaris, is it?
Yeah,
It's children of
traders,
Chinar.
new traders, traders of Chinoris. They change it all the time.
Exactly. So if you fancy a game on the Xbox, get on there, get on the server, and find us, and you can join a faction and have loads of fun. But yeah, let's start talking about what we're here for, which is the first thing on the agenda, which of course it's always got to be this amazing show, which is The Last of Us. Again, we've just had episode 6, and I don't know about you, but I was watching this show, I was watching this episode, and I thought to myself, I could watch this show for the rest of my life. Literally, it's such good viewing, because the way I look at it is that each episode is about an hour, and that's an hour of your life that you're not going to get back. And the beauty of this show, I'm willing to give up an hour of my life to watch this show, because even though I've never played the games, as I've mentioned on previous streams, this story is amazing, and this episode is nail biting. It really, really is. What did you think of episode 6?
I enjoyed it. Try to get my thoughts together on here. No, it's a really good show. Like, I was talking to my son, who I've said in the past, who's recently played the games. I'm like the game is a 10 out of a 10 game, 100%. I feel like the show, even from some of the stuff I remember and I've kind of gone back over, the show's a real solid 8 in comparison. Because there's stuff that they could do in a video game that makes it more engaging. You're almost living the life, and like even my son was pointing out towards the end of the episode, what happens with Joel was a little bit more exciting, in the game, because there's a lot more to it. I don't know if did you ever watch the show True Blood?
Yes, and that woman's in it. Yeah, I recognized her. Yeah.
My wife was. It was funny. My wife was like a diehard True Blood fan. We had like bottles of the True Blood drink.
Me too.
She
Yeah.
bought the comics and all that stuff. And I'm like, is that Tara from True Blood? And my wife's like, no. She like named the actress's name and everything. And I looked it up. I'm like, it's her. She's like, oh my God, I haven't seen her in years.
And do you know what? In True Blood, I didn't like her character. She annoyed me really bad. So when I recognised her in the last, I didn't recognise her straight away. I thought, I recognise that face. Surely it can't be, because she's not grating on me as she did in True Blood. But
she was more Southern accent. She used more of a Southern accent in True Blood.
And of course, the episode stayed true to the Naughty Dog, sort of, way in the way of following the gameplay and the story. But I've got to say that obviously they've branched out a bit again. They've had a bit of freedom, which is quite nice to see, because if it adds value to that episode. But you know what? I'm going to play a behind the scenes footage from HBO. So this is a bit of a spoiler. So if you haven't seen the episode, I would say go on something else for five minutes. If not, check this out, because it's quite a good insight of what went on. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about the little mistake that HBO once again made on one of their shows. So here we go with a bit of behind the scenes.
Trying to save somebody and then failing is a terrible feeling. And it is, in fact, the feeling that Joel finds himself soaking in now every day, because he's panicked that it's going to happen to him again. He can handle being shot at, he can handle being punched, kicked. What he cannot possibly fathom is going through the experience of losing his child again, and that's what Ellie is becoming to him.
Ellie doesn't make relationships easily, mainly because the relationships she has built have been cruelly taken away from her. That's where Joel and her are the same.
What's incredible was to be able to explore things that I think are very much a part of the experience of the game, but you can expand on.
You're not gonna scare us.
Scared him?
One of those things is the internal life of these characters.
With the show, there was this addition of he's having a physical reaction to that. He can't breathe, his chest hurts. It's a combination of his age, but also all the events that have just happened.
Are you dying?
And his connection to Ellie. He's just so scared. And Ellie doesn't quite understand what's happening with him. Joel just feels like he needs to save everyone around him. Joel has this goal where he thinks he needs to go save his brother. And then he arrives in Jackson. Not only does he not need to save his brother is thriving.
This place actually fucking works.
When we were in Canmore filming, just the little town of Jackson, I was just like, there's the bank, there's the studio, lights. I was like, they got everything. They got all we need. It just makes my job easier, because I could just really come onto set and be.
Imagine going to a town and being able to put in like a half-acre stables with sheep and horses and cows and all of that stuff. My favorite part of that was building the paddock and the stables and everything in the parking lot right in the middle of town.
Hey, Joel, check it.
When we go into these places, we're not doing anything small. We spend quite a bit of time there. And if there's one business on a street that we want to film on that doesn't want to play ball, we're out of luck. Fortunately, we've had everyone accommodate us everywhere we went.
Jackson, it's this beautiful community. It's the closest some group has come to the world that we know, the world that we live in, that they could watch movies, that they could celebrate Christmas.
I'm sorry about your kids.
It's okay. And kid, just Kevin. Sarah was Joel's daughter.
There's this beautiful moment where Joel stumbles outside and he thinks he sees his daughter. We love the idea that for a moment he would think, just for a moment, and then he would see her with her daughter and he would think, that's what I would have.
We always try to keep her spirit in the scene. I think it's always a ghost in the room between Joel and Tommy.
I'm failing in my sleep. It's all I do. It's all I've ever done. It's fail.
Anybody who's like grieving or who've lost a child, everybody goes through that path differently. With Maria, I think she poured into the people because that's what she had. And I think Joel kind of just imploded. Like, I just feel like he just went into himself. But it is different to see how Maria and Joel both handle those losses very, 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 very differently.
I've lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
And that scene is perhaps the most famous scene from the game. We did it almost exactly. We changed a few things here and there. The general execution of it was something that I thought was important we stick to exactly.
Everybody I have cared for has either died or left me. Everybody fucking except for you! Me and Pedro, both of us really felt the pressure of that. And when you feel too pressured in something, when you've created that for yourself, it can be hard to perform how you want to. Yeah, no, I had sleepless nights over that scene.
I didn't envy them, so trying to like do a scene that like exists in the game and is like seared into people's mind, and they made it their own, and it's just as beautiful.
Ellie admits she's afraid and that he makes her less afraid. And what Joel doesn't know how to tell her is she makes him more afraid. That when you care about something or someone, that's when the fear happens.
Joel? Joel, no, shit! Ellie's biggest fear is definitely ending up alone. Joel, open your eyes. Open your eyes. I can't fucking do this without you. Please.
So that was a bit of behind the scenes. I think it's put in perspective as well, the amount of work that's gone in there. We did get another question that I wanted to address straight away. Do you think they made the right choice in making a TV show versus a movie? Do you think they made the right choice?
100%. I mean, if you condense the story down to 2, maybe 3 hours, it would have been so rushed. You wouldn't have been able to have time to really sit there and get the emotion from Joel and Ellie and all these characters around them. And before I forget, my favorite character from last night's episode was the old Indian lady. Like, she was absolutely hysterical.
She was. I love it when he goes, "Are you telling me? No, did you tell them the truth? Are you telling me the truth?" And she just
You gave him soup? It's cold outside.
Yeah, that's really, really good character. It really is. But I've got to say as well that, I suppose, I agree. They did do the right choice because there's so much in this show and so many characters and story. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've mentioned it before that the budget-wise, they have got a big movie budget. I mean, as I mentioned before, the first 5 seasons of Game of Thrones alone, the budget for the first 5 seasons has gone into the season 1 of the Last of Us. So, it's a lot of money spent, and you can tell by the quality of the show. But in true HBO fashion, they make mistakes. They did it on The Mandalorian with the T-shirt and jeans guy, which I think is hysterical. I've seen so many people go to fancy dress parties dressed as that man because it got so much coverage. But obviously, with Game of Thrones, they had the Starbucks cup. And I wanted to show this picture here. to see if any of the viewers, anyone watching right now, can see where the mistake has actually been made. So there's the scene just there. That scenery is absolutely breathtaking. It really, really is. We never get any snow like that in the UK.
Oh, I do.
Do you? I think,
Yeah.
to be honest, even if we got a bit of snow on one of those leaves on one of those trees, everything would stop here. But obviously, this is one of the scenes where they're walking across the bridge. For the viewers, if you look on the left-hand side of the image to the bottom of the left-hand side, you will see crew members stood by the trees. You will see just slightly up from them, you will see actually the cameras facing the bridge filming, which this scene, literally, this shot lasts for not even a second, I would say. It's like a split second. But yet the internet is blown up around that, which I think is incredible. It really, really is. Do you think they just didn't notice, or they just thought, nah, no one will care about it?
I mean, it's you're figuring most people are watching on TV. It's like there's been a lot of famous movies in the past that they assume you're going to see it once, like this is before like video, or streaming and stuff like that, and they don't even fix stuff, and like I think what was it, Lord of the Rings? You could see a car driving in the background in one of the scenes, I mean,
and Gladiator,
stuff like
you
that.
saw a plane going across. I think it was. And then another movie, someone had a digital watch on, and it was a medieval shoot. These things are going to happen. There's so many moving parts. I still think it's hilarious. I really, really do.
I mean, you're going from maybe 100 people seeing this episode, to millions of people seeing this episode. So I mean, more and more people see it, the more people are gonna nitpick it and screenshot it and look for the mistakes.
Of course. So then we move on to some latest news. Alec Baldwin. We all know Alec Baldwin as the actor from Hunt for Red October, but obviously he was working on Rust as
I know
a
him from
producer.
Beetlejuice. I'm just gonna say
Yeah,
Beetlejuice
of course.
is way better.
Oh, you know what? One of my favorite movies. Nice effing model. And it kicks the tree down. But obviously, disaster struck the set of Rust, which was one of his latest movies, where an accident that no one ever plans for or ever would want. But Elena Hutchins, who was a cinematographer, sadly passed away from being shot by one of the prop guns. So we'll talk about safety on set in a second. But obviously the latest, and this is from today, so Baldwin was charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter over the death on the set of Rust in October 2021. But he's going to go to court on Friday to obviously start the proceedings. So the first charge he was facing was obviously involuntary manslaughter that requires proof of underlying negligence. Then the second charge was involuntary manslaughter in the commission of a lawful act, which requires the proof that there was more than simple negligence involved. And the second one is a mandatory 5 years in prison. Well, the news is the second charge has been removed, so reducing the possible prison sentence facing from a minimum of 5 years to a maximum of 18 months. So he could, if he gets found guilty, he could spend 1.5 years maximum in prison. Again, I mean, obviously these sets have got prop masters. They've got so many people handling guns and checking everything's safe. Where do you think, from a film goer and a very wise person as yourself, Larry, where do you think the blame lies? Where do you think the responsibility should stop at?
You know what? Hold the actor responsible. I really don't know. I mean, think about how many movies are made a year and how many acts. What is this, 2? And we're going to bring up the other one. There might be more, but not as high profile. But I mean, there's checks and balances. I've heard stories about this case that involved them taking the guns out and shooting targets the night before, and somebody didn't do their checks and balances. You have a lot of human error.
Mm.
And then Hollywood is known for drug and alcohol abuse. You add that into the mix. There's a lot of negligence that could have happened that night. And who's to say there isn't more. There's more people that should be charged other than Alec Baldwin, the actor himself. Unless he was the prop master, unless it was his personal gun and he handed it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there should be more people in play with this scenario.
I mean, there's a lot of actors that I've spoken to that have expressed their opinions to the fact that, you don't need live firing like blanks or anything like that anymore because of special effects. You can simulate that on screen of the flash of the muzzle and everything like that. But then there's a lot of actors that have said that they've worked on countless films and projects with guns, and it's been absolutely super safe. They dry shoot the gun before giving it to the actor, so they know that there's nothing in there. But then the actors like to feel what the gun would technically do when it does fire, to give a bit of authenticity to that shoot. Again, I think that in every line of work, there's going to be accidents. And unfortunately, in this case, it was a fatal one. But how many fatal... And I'm not dismissing this situation, and what's happened to her and her family is devastating. But I suppose when we look at the workplace, how many deaths happen at work every single day around the world? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I think there's more deaths in the workplace that happen than in Hollywood on movie sets. To be honest with you, I mean, I heard a horrifying story of a kid that was a temp for one of the alcohol companies and ended up getting crushed by a pallet. And they only gave the family like $200,000 as like a write-off. And these things happen. I mean, and whose fault was that? But like, I mean, it's crazy talking about like the bullets in Hollywood. Is that I don't know if you ever seen the Boondock Saints, but I remember I was following the making of Boondock Saints 2, and they were actually selling the shells from all the from the gunshots on the set. And that, I mean, there was thousands of them. And not one single person. And that was a low budget movie that was fan made. And there was no accident.
I mean, obviously, for Alec, the punishment, as started the moment it happened. Does he deserve prison? Again, without being in that courtroom, without knowing all the facts. And the problem is, we hear what the media, lets us hear. And, again, I don't know how much of it is truth or how much of it is fiction. So it's not nice on either parties. It's not nice. I can only imagine to take a life, but also to be a family member that's had a life taken away. But I'm sure that justice will be served. But then talking about, obviously, guns and accidents, going from, obviously, Alec, you've got Brandon Lee, which Brandon Lee, I can remember growing up, and he was in Rapid Fire. He was in so many cool movies. And he was in that same position. He was shot on set during The Crow, which was an awesome movie that resulted in... Was his face superimposed, or was there an actor that...
I think that... Oh, God, I really don't remember. I don't think they really superimposed at that point. I think it might have been another actor.
Yeah.
And they just kind of like covered him up a little bit.
But again, with this, the result of it, they actually figured out what it was, and it came to light that obviously they were using blanks, but the problem is that someone had been using, live rounds or something. That it had basically the remnants of the top of a bullet still in the barrel. So when they loaded the blank, they didn't check the barrel was clear. So there was, the top end of a bullet still stuck in the barrel. And of course, with the blank, what they were doing to cut the budget, they were making their own blanks. So they were loading the gunpowder themselves in the actual bullets and then putting it in the gun. And they actually tested it. I watched some footage of someone recreating what could happen and if it could be fatal. And they recreated it, and it went straight through the gel that they used to substitute a body, if you know what I mean. And yeah, it was just devastating. And of course, he died. He was pronounced dead when he arrived at the hospital. But then we talk about conspiracies, and again, he was taken far too young, and because obviously his dad, of course, Bruce Lee, was taken far too young as well. There's massive conspiracies about what had happened to his dad. I mean, what do you know about Bruce Lee and around his death?
I know a little bit. I'm actually a big martial art movie fan. So at one point I was getting all the Dragon Dynasties of the Jet Li movies and the Jackie Chan movies, Bruce Lee movies. I love that stuff growing up, and I think that's what's led me into loving anime, because they just don't make martial arts movies the same anymore. But of what my understanding was, is that when he came to America, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because he became bigger than China, and these movies, he became like an international superstar, and there's a lot of money with like Yakuza and all that. I could be misspeaking on some of it, but they're like, I remember hearing some of the rumors is that they did something to lead to his death.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he came over to America to try and make it, and at that point, I don't think anyone was giving anyone Chinese a fair go. And obviously he did the Green Hornet, and he did a few other things, to train people in obviously the US. But then he went back to Hong Kong, where he got given some big budget movies. And what the rumors was the triads over in Hong Kong saw it as an opportunity to make some money from him, and they would go and visit him. And it's been documented as well that they went to visit him on set and at his home to either ask for protection money or a cut of the movie to work for them, sort of thing. And there were rumors that the triads even actually invested in some of these movies, knowing how big they were going to be. Obviously, Bruce Lee turned them down every moment he could. But then this is where it gets a bit sketchy. So obviously he's become a big star, and there's a producer called Raymond Chow, and he was having a meeting with him and this lady who, again, it's rumored to be his mistress. Raymond leaves early, and again, a source from inside the triads, again, you don't know how true this is, has claimed that he left early, his producer, because they were going to organise a hit on Bruce Lee. This is how ridiculous it gets, and I'm sure you're going to talk about other ridiculous things with other stars in a moment. But then he suffers from headaches, and he has done, and he's been in hospital before with swelling of the brain. So he had a migraine tablet from this woman, and he lays down and he never wakes up. She panics when she gets a phone call from the producer to say, where are they? Because they should have gone to meet them at this restaurant. She explains that he's not waking up. The producer comes round and literally doesn't ring for an ambulance for a whole hour. So this is documented. So it doesn't ring for an ambulance for a whole hour. Why? Do you know what I mean? Why not? And then after that hour passes, he rings for an ambulance, and sadly, they put fluid into him. They shoot adrenaline straight into his heart from the hospital reports. But sadly, he passes. So, we've all seen the Bruce Lee film with Jason Scott Lee, which I thought was actually all right. I really enjoyed it. And obviously there are rumors that it's something else involved. But yeah, you don't know what to believe, if it was the triads, if he was just ill, because everyone sees him as this unstoppable machine, this fighting machine, this 1-inch punch guy, and he's not capable of getting ill.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like with Bruce Lee, I'm a big MMA fan. I've watched UFC for years, and people still talk about Bruce Lee. Like he could go over there and knock out John Jones. He could knock out Stipe. He could take out Daniel Cormier. Like I'm like, okay, you have to remember this guy was a $125, and size does matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's that people have I think it's Michael Jai White was talking about this openly and got a lot of flack. He's like, I would knock Bruce Lee out, something along those lines. And he's like, I'm twice the guy's size. I'm a trained fighter. Bruce Lee would know this too. We would have respect for each other. It's like, yeah, he could hurt me, but like, he's not going to go up to Mike Tyson and just 3-inch punch a guy 3 times the size of him.
But-
some of it was show, some of it was to be flashy, but I mean, he was, by all accounts, like he was training judo with Gene LaBelle, and he was into other martial arts, so he was probably one of the first mixed martial artists.
I mean, he specialised in Wing Chun as well, and that is about using the opponent's momentum. It's a style meant for smaller people because it's there to use the momentum and block and and I'm sure if someone was twice his size, he would still take him down, in all fairness. But yeah, I mean, the coroner did say it was death by misadventure. That's how they described it, which was obviously to do with the allergic reaction with the headache tablet, which is not the only star that has died at a young age from complications with drugs. You've got Elvis Presley and Marilyn Monroe, which again, they're surrounded by many, many conspiracy theories. They really are. But you wanted to talk about, I mean, you've got Jason David Franks, who sadly took his life recently. Which
Very recently.
Everyone is mourning his loss. But you were telling me some really bizarre things, and I couldn't believe it when I looked. If you could tell all the viewers what I'm talking about.
So there was a Facebook page I came across. It was under my suggestions that about his wife killing him or being behind his suicide. I started following this page, and I don't promote this page. I just want to put this out there. It's wild. It's fans trying to grieve and come up with a conspiracy. Apparently like something I read along the lines is that apparently she served him divorce papers at a con, and that's kind of led him down the road, and he was always open about mental health, and he was always promoting people get mental health checks. And even one of his last videos, which I seen through this page, where it was like half hour before he committed suicide, so he was talking about strain on mental health and people going to get help if they need it. He was a very big proponent of that. But people are now like watching every interview that she's doing. It's like, oh, she's contradicting herself, and how is she going to say that they weren't divorced, but then instead of talking about they served him papers, and like it's kind of sad, And I remember I watched this thing about how people grieve, and a lot of and they talk about conspiracy theories, that a lot of people, when something traumatic happens to them or somebody that they can't fathom is gone, that they try to, even a moment like, not for us in 9/11, is the way our brain works is that we will come up with something, even no matter how outlandish it is, to kind of cope with the traumatic event. Jason David Frank, like, for me, was a kind of like an idol or icon, something that somebody, like, I remember watching Power Rangers as a young kid. I still have my Dragon Zord from my 10th birthday, I mean, I absolutely, like, he was my guy, so this one touched me, and but like, then they even released his coroner report, and there was something with, like, drugs and alcohol in the system, and these people are like, oh yeah, she poisoned him because he wouldn't do that. And I'm like sometimes, like, he might have had a rough time in his marriage, going through some stuff. These are celebrities we're talking about, and the celebrity scene has a lot of drugs and alcohol use. Like Chester from Linkin Park, had drug issues and I think he overdosed. This has been happening a lot in Hollywood, recently.
I mean, the disturbing thing is that picture I've put on there is actually the profile picture of a big Facebook group that's got over 6,000 members. So it's just crazy to think that there's a group out there that is coming up with conspiracy theories like this. I mean, surely if he got served papers at a convention, they can actually get details of that. That would coincide on the date and time he got served, as they say in the US, and they can actually confirm if he did. But one of my biggest regrets is not meeting him, because literally on the flip side of things, I mean, I know you said that he spoke out a lot about mental health. He was amazing with guests. He was amazing with the convention attendees. Everyone loved him. Even Bat in the Sun, which are making, I've got a picture here of him in his latest film that's going to be released that I think they're still editing now. Has just said what an inspirational man he was. And it's quite sad to think that males are very much under the impression as men that we've got to keep things to ourselves because it's not the manly thing to do. And I'm quite glad that it's starting to change, where there's nothing wrong with speaking out, because we all have problems, we all have concerns.
Where it started, I've noticed there's been a trend where guys are starting to talk about, like, hey, we have issues too. And there was even like things I've seen, like memes and stuff like that. They like look at Will Smith, there's other celebrities who broke out in tears, and we just mocked those guys. Will Smith, when he slapped Chris Rock, he was having a mental breakdown, but nobody wants to talk about that. Like, I don't defend him for slapping him, but he's on a national stage, issues with his wife, his kids, and and sometimes that's when you react like that, that's an issue with mental health, when it comes down to it. And we want to laugh at these guys for that. There's been a lot of celebrities like that. I mean, even think about Robin Williams. Like, I loved Robin Williams growing up. I still love Robin Williams, he's my genie, he's all sorts of movies like Jumanji, 1 Hour Photo. Like, you could just go down the list. World's Greatest Dad, really messed up movie with the kid from Spy Kids. But he was everybody's like funny guy. You heard Robin Williams, you smiled, but we didn't know what he was going through behind the scenes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We see these actors, and we don't realize that they're just normal people with just different jobs than ourselves, and they've got normal pressures. And the problem is that they're in the limelight all the time. So, it's like for Will Smith, it's like when that slap happened, people were saying, "Oh, we're seeing the real Will Smith," and I was like, "No, you're seeing a broken man," because in a million years he would never want to have done that to endanger his career and his life's work. I mean, he was getting an Oscar that night, and that's how he got it. So every time he's going to look at that Oscar now, it's just going to remind him of that moment. And apparently him and
he
Chris
tainted everything.
Yeah, go on.
I'm sorry. He tainted his whole career. He was the guy, for years, going back to his doing the Freddie song, Our Parents Don't Understand, to Fresh Prince, Independence Day, and that was supposed to be his crowning night, and there was so much pressure on that night for him. He broke, good or bad pressure.
And he was the first rap star to actually win a Grammy, apparently, if I remember rightly, in one of his songs. I liked his albums because he didn't swear. He didn't have to. And they're all really good songs. And he's still the man. I mean, we all have our moments, and I think that people out there need to forgive. Not to forget.
I mean, his kids are weirdos, so I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Well, we can't blame Will. I mean, when kids get to a certain age, as parents, we can't influence them anymore. They get influenced by social media, by life, by everyone around them, their friends. So we've only got a short time to instill right from wrong and good self-esteem. But yeah, once get to that age, and yeah, I agree with you. I really do. But let's move on to Prop Store. Of course, they're the sponsors of Be More Super, and they have got a live auction that's going on right now. And Prop Store sent me my little info pack as normal. So thank you for this. So it started on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, and it's going till the 27th and 28th of February. And it's the auction based out of LA. And some of the stuff in it I just think is fantastic. It's over 1,000 original props and costumes. If you want to have a further look at what they've got on offer, check out propstore.com. Go on there, have a look. It's just amazing stuff. We're going to just show a few things here that I've looked at, and it's one of my favourites. So Back to the Future is one of my favourite films. These are live prices, so these are what they're currently at. So obviously you've got the lovely Pizza Hut dehydrated wrapper there. It's crazy. Do you know what? It's really good investment to buy props and keep them, because they're only going to appreciate in time in the way of value. You get more money, believe it or not, buying a prop, the right prop, keeping it for a while, than you would putting money into a savings account. So I'm not saying, Larry, you should go out and buy loads of props, but tell the wife you need to buy all these Batman props because they'll be worth more money in the future. So estimated on this is $1,500 to $3,000. It's currently at $750, which is an absolute steal. It really, really is for this. It works out about £500 for the UK. Remember, you do have to buy. You do have to pay buyer's premium on that as well. You've got the telephone page from Back to the Future as well, the first one, which is currently at £1,400, which again, really good price. It really is. And then, of course, you've got You're Fired fax that he gets. That's currently at $1,700, which again is about £1,400. Again, absolutely steal. That would look very nice, all box framed and lit up and everything like that. And Armageddon, I presume you've watched Armageddon. It's one of those.
I've seen it once years ago. I remember the theme song,
Did you
the
cry?
Aerosmith song more.
Did you cry?
I don't think I did.
What?
I've seen it like years after it came out, and I've only watched it once.
Oh, the scene when Bruce Willis pushes Ben Affleck into the air thingy, and rips a thing off his chest or whatever to give to someone. I think the Billy Bob Thornton character. And that moment literally gets me every time I watch it. It's one of those films where men are allowed to cry openly because it's a proper bro movie, even though it's quite romantic in places.
I think that's what we need to talk about next week is movies that will make a man cry. Because I got one for you.
Yes. Yeah, we'll do that next week. We'll do the whole live stream on movies that will make a man cry.
I'll bring my tissue.
Yeah. Oh my God! Do you know what? If my wife was watching now, she'll be laughing her head off because I near enough cry at literally every movie. I'm so invested in movies. Honestly, I do. I literally get so invested in the characters and the story that I'm always in tears because, you know, I just think movies are great. You escape for a while and you go on this journey. It's just amazing. It really, really is. But yeah, check out the auction. So it's got some great pieces, and it's just a great thing of taking something home. I mean, I don't know if you can see on the camera here, but where is it? I don't know if that's focusing. The coin from the Goonies. See, reading this book, I didn't realise that they use the same coins from the Goonies for Hook, which is one of my other favourite movies.
I love that movie. That's another Robin Williams movie, you know. I've probably watched that movie 100 times.
Do you know, I can remember going to the cinema, the UCI cinema in Crystal Peaks. I remember going with my dad and just thinking how magical that movie was. Again, I cried at that movie. So
Can you believe that Can you believe there's a whole train of people that hate that movie? They think it's a bad movie. And it actually has a bad Rotten Tomatoes scores too.
Do you know what? I just don't get it. I really, really don't. You know what? We need to encourage more people out there that are watching and listening after the live stream as well, because it goes on all platforms. That if you've enjoyed a movie, go out and shout about it, because it's only when, and it's like this for everything. It's only when we've had a bad experience or we don't like something. You know, we call it a very British way. I don't know what it's like in the US, but we will go out of our way to complain. We will go out of our way to shout about anything bad that we've experienced, any bad movie, bad customer service. So we need all the listeners and viewers. If you've watched a really good movie, shout about it, because I think that, you know, we don't see enough positive feedback around things, you know, and it's sad because there's so many good movies out there, as you said, that movie Hook got a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes, and it shouldn't have. It's magical. It really is.
I think it's more of one of those nostalgia things, you know. It's like there's a lot of movies from when we were like, you're not too much older than me, like Ninja Turtles, you know. Like there's I think that was one of those movies that got okay scores or whatnot, you know. But our age group have so many fond memories of it. Like I see videos now of grown men in our age groups, gray beards, just talking about their love of Ninja Turtles now, like, and how it's masterful cinema, which at the time it was with the Jim Henson Company and everything like that. I could do a whole. I think everybody's done a whole hour on Ninja Turtles at this point, you know.
Do you know what? How lucky am I? I've actually been to Jim Henson's workshop at Elstree. You know, where they made everything for Labyrinth and Dark Crystal. I've actually been in the workshop and seen them all on the shelves, and it's magical.
I would love that, because apparently at their studios, do you remember Dinosaurs?
Yeah,
the show Dinosaurs.
Not the mama.
I can't remember the neighbor's name, but there was a neighbor who was a Brontosaurus, and apparently, as you walk into the studio, her head is still outside after all these years.
Do you know what? It's one of those shows. I think it's been streamed again on Disney Plus. I think it's Disney Plus it's on. But I tried to show my kids it because I loved it, especially the little baby in it. That actually, saying that, thinking back, that baby actually reminds me of my youngest in many ways.
Not the mama.
Not the mama. And but yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic. It really, really is. But do you know what? We'll talk about movies that make grown men cry next week. We'll put some posts out, and we'll get some feedback, and we'll get people to send in their movies that made them cry, and we'll see what the response is, and we'll talk about them and see if we agree or not. Even though I'm probably going to agree on every single one. But I think that is about time, Larry, for another live show. What have you got planned for this afternoon, my man?
I'm about to go cook myself a steak.
Cook yourself? Oh, I've got no money, but I'm having steak. Do you know how expensive steak is over here? It's so expensive.
It really is. At my work, they had $8 off a pack, so I ended up paying like $30 for 3 of them. So I'm like, I'm gonna get it.
Jesus, that's really expensive for me anyway. But I don't know what it's like in the US. Have you got a shortage of eggs over in the US?
I don't know about shortage, but I know we do have, like, all the prices have gone up. But I mean, the prices on everything have gone up. I mean, we keep calling it inflation, but the truth about it, we closed down the world for 2 years, and people need to make their money back.
Yeah.
You know, and
I mean, the thing is, there's no point worrying about something you cannot change right this second. If you can't influence that change, why stress about it? That's the way I look at it, you know. And we should be grateful for each day we've got, and because there's no reruns, you know, there's no do-overs, and but I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful to be speaking to you, Larry, doing this show, and I'm enjoying our chin wags. But yeah, look after yourself, keep safe, and remember, if you're watching, listening, hit subscribe, share with your friends, and join us next week. Yes, please. And join us next week at the same time on Be More Super. Thank you very much. Good night. Farewell. Keep safe.